Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad on today's show. Very shortly, we're going to have a spoiler discussion about the Black Adam post-credit scene, yes, with Superman. It's not a spoiler, you know it, you've seen it on the internet. We're going to discuss it and discuss what it actually means for the future. Then we're going to discuss Grace Randall's claims, or as one account said on Twitter, one DC account said the dubious Grace Randall, claiming that Ezra Miller will definitely be recast as the Flash, and she even has an actor's name in the mix for that. We will discuss that. Then we will discuss the Black Adam reviews and discuss where critical entertainment media is today. If they're relevant, if they're needed, Rotten Tomatoes, is it good to have this aggregate score? Is it good to give a film a thumbs up or a thumbs down? I saw one critic posting his review, so you could click the link, saying, to Black Adam, worst movie ever. When I was growing up, when I was a child, I felt critics were really, really intelligent. They used to use long words, and they used to talk about films properly. Now it's all about agenda. We'll get into it. Saying a film's the worst film ever just makes you sound so stupid and so full of agenda. So we'll get to that conversation as well. And there's quite a few articles to read today as well. So it's a very, very busy show here on Movies TV Mad. So let's discuss the Black Adam post-credit scene. So there is an exchange between Black Adam and Amanda Waller. She tells him that he doesn't have to remain in her prison, but he has to remain in Kahndaq. Or basically, she will have him killed, and he says, there's no one on this planet who can touch me. Something along those lines, anyway. And she goes, well, I do know a few people who owe me favors who are not from this world. So he does the brilliant line here. He really does. I love this line and the way The Rock performs this line. He says, bring them all. I love it. I just fucking love it. So Amanda Waller being Amanda Waller, and you know, no one fucks with Amanda Waller, not even Black Adam. She goes, all right then, have it your own way. So he then basically smashes the screen that she's on. So it explodes and there's this smoke. And you've all seen it anyway. But when you see it on a big screen, it's so much better. So anyway, you hear a voice. It's clearly the voice of Henry Cavill's Superman. So if you didn't know about the rumours of him being in it, you're thinking, oh great, it's just a voice. But he walks through. He's got a spit curl. He's got the kind of Justice League costume on, but I think it's redesigned. He looks good. The costume looks good. And he says, it's been a while since the Earth has been so afraid. Black Adam, we need to talk. So it's a very short but sweet post-credit scene. But the element of it is that it starts off with Amanda Waller, aka Viola Davis. And it's a brilliant moment actually, because people are all focused on the Superman moment, but seeing Amanda Waller there, and it's not the first time you see her in the movie, but it's great. She's on this screen. She's always safe. She ain't coming to Kahndaq to face Black Adam face to face. She ain't fucking dumb. Viola Davis is everything that Amanda Waller should be. She is the Amanda Waller from the comics. I've always loved Waller because she's a badass. She's a bitch. She's ruthless. And really, she's based on real people. There are figures in the world today moving the chess pieces constantly and, you know, manipulating things so things work out their way. But there are also people that are actually keeping us safe. So Amanda Waller is a very relevant character, and I love her. She's always been a great character, and Viola Davis plays her so well. So you get that exchange, and it's a brilliant exchange because basically he's saying to her, okay, bitch, bring them all, send them all. I don't care. I'm not afraid of anyone. But that's the character of Black Adam. He doesn't think before he speaks. He doesn't think there's anyone that can touch him. until he's introduced to Superman. Now, Superman in this scene, if you've seen it, or even if you get how I've described it, isn't being aggressive. He's pretty much saying, people are worried about you, mate. You're a scary guy. We need to talk. He doesn't say, let's throw some fists. So what happens after that scene? Of course, we don't know because it rolls to credits. But it's a great tease for the future of the DC Extended Universe, of a DC Extended Universe, because we may not be continuing this DC Extended Universe much longer. So Superman after that may have just said, we need to talk, and flew off, and it will happen next time. Maybe they start fighting. Maybe next time we see them, they actually start fighting. How mad would that be? Or they start talking. Why can't they just be friends and not fight? Because it doesn't make much money. But ultimately, there could be a conversation there. Obviously, Black Adam is a fist first kind of a guy, talk later. But if you watch the movie, there are moments in the film where he responds better to some characters than others. But he's definitely a loose cannon, and he's definitely dumb enough to fight Superman. And that fight is going to be awesome. There is an article, actually, I will read later on. I think it's from comicbook.com or Comic Book, where they discuss how this whole fight thing has to be built up properly. And I think we can see one of the mistakes of BVS, a film I love a lot, where they kind of rushed into the fight between Batman and Superman, gave us 9 minutes, and then they were quickly friends afterwards. And, you know, the build-up to that film was like, who will win? Now, personally, I don't see the need to see Batman and Superman fighting. They've mainly been allies, but there's been times in the comics where they've been on opposite sides, so that's okay. But, yeah, I think they should build this moment up, and it shouldn't just be about Superman versus Black Adam. And it's not. I think it's clearly the Suicide Squad and Justice League versus Black Adam. But I think eventually, once they tame him, he will either join the Suicide Squad or the Justice League. In the comics, as I said the other day, he has joined, I think, either the Suicide Squad or Justice League. So he's an anti-hero in the DCEU. He's not totally evil. And they try and give you reasons why he is the way he is. There's a great little, moment, a kind of little origin story for him at the beginning to kind of sew in there why he is the way he is. And he's got very good reasons for being that way. Anyway, let's focus on the post-credits scene. So I think, as The Rock himself has already said, this is not just about one little fight. This is about setting out something more expansive. I like the way The Rock talks. He talks very intelligently about DC. And I like that. I think this has been one of the highlights of his marketing and publicity drive for Black Adam. It's been, let's set out this universe, but let's take our time. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. Let's talk to the comic book guys and girls who have been working on these properties for years. Let's populate DC Studios with people who understand DC. So yes, I loved the post-credit scene, but I didn't just love it because Henry Cavill's Superman was in it, and of course, that's the highlight, and it's awesome. And Henry's great. He's not there for long. He doesn't say very much, but in terms of the DC Extended Universe, Henry Cavill's Superman doesn't talk very much anyway. He's more of a visual, physical being in the DCEU, especially in the Snyderverse. I would like to see Superman speaking a lot more, and Clark having more scenes. I want more Henry Cavill, and I think this is the idea that Zaslav has at the moment to make Superman front and center. So where before Hamada was going Batgirl, Supergirl, it was going to be, and I hate this word by the way, don't get me wrong, but it just shortens down what I'm trying to say. He was trying to go the woke way, right? So it was going to be very PC, very woke, very inclusive, where Zaslav's gone, nah, fuck all that shit. Superman is front and center. We want a Batman. We want a Wonder Woman. We want the Trinity front and center. But Superman is the most famous character in comics, right? Okay, Batman stands will be shouting at their screen right now. But you know what I mean. So we're going to use the most iconic fucking character. We're certainly not going to shelve him like Hamada and Emmerich and Sarnoff wanted to do. Ridiculous. If you don't like the actor, cast someone else who looks like Superman, right? Ridiculous. But there were rumours they were going to bring another actor in. and bring him into the Flash movie at the end. Anyway. It's a great post-credit scene. It really does tease the future, but it wasn't just a Superman and Black Adam moment, which was amazing. By the way, when Superman says what he says, when the camera pans back to Black Adam, his reaction is fucking priceless, by the way. I absolutely love it. It's like, I ain't fucking scared of you, mate. Let's go. Let's throw some fists, because he's not really a brains guy, Black Adam. He's like most people you'll see down the pub. He'll react first and think later. And I like that. And I think that's what made Black Adam really relatable to comic book readers like The Rock, because The Rock kind of used to be a little bit that way and still is sometimes. He doesn't think, when he falls out with people, he doesn't think about what he's doing. And this is why a lot of us kind of relate to The Rock, because he's kind of a typical guy in a lot of ways, and so is Black Adam. And so it's a great post-credit scene, and I went yesterday morning to watch it properly, because I seen the test screening. I went yesterday, and there was like this breakfast, watch and eat your breakfast. So it was a great little event, and it was packed. It was early in the morning. I think it was about 9 a.m. And, the cinema I normally go to isn't normally open at that time, but this was a special event. And so I went to it, and I tried to write some notes, because you can't write notes when you're at the test screening. So I wanted to write some notes for my spoiler review when I finally do it. But I think we're talking about next week now for my spoiler review. First of all, it's etiquette for people who haven't seen the movie. Second of all, I want to get my notes right. Because of the kind of mixed reaction to this movie, I want to get my thoughts down. My memory's shit. I don't remember a whole movie after I've seen it once or twice. So I'm going to watch it next week again, finish my notes, and then we're going to do a really fun, really long spoiler review. Probably the video will go for about an hour or something, and it'll take 6 years to upload. I may go live with it. It depends what mood I'm in. I'm not always in the mood for lives. I have to have energy levels to go live. You have to be very kind of motivated, and your voice has to be clear, and sometimes I'm not always feeling that way. Anyway, love the post-credit scene. It was awesome, and you're going to love it. And everyone in the theatre was cheering. But once Superman, this is what I liked, because on that kind of leaked one, people cheered through the talking. But once Cavill started talking, there was silence. Cheers, and then there was silence. And it was great. The post-credit scene is brilliantly shot. It's brilliantly written. I'm assuming the people who made Black Adam did it all. But it's great. And I'll reiterate again, the stuff with Amanda Waller and the exchange between her and Black Adam was just as awesome as the stuff between Black Adam and Superman. And what this post-credit scene says from Zaslav, guys, we know there's issues. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to get rid of. The Hamada plans will go, because Hamada is gone. We've already discussed that. I don't want to discuss that again. So he's gone. What does that mean? That means his plans are fucked. It's finished. And there's an article talking about one of the ideas that was implemented by him in the first Shazam. And I think that's very interesting, because yes, nobody's all good or all bad. Walter Hamada is a talented guy and had some good ideas. We'll get into that a little bit later on as well. So you can't assume anything anymore. You don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. But Grace Randolph reckons she knows what's going to happen. We'll get into this little Flash recast rumour very shortly. Basically, right now, they're looking at Hamada's plans and thinking, nah, this is crap. This is crap. Get rid of that. So anything can go. Any movie can be shelved. Nothing you know is solid anymore. And it's funny reading DC fan Twitter where they think this is still happening, that's still happening. I read something about, Black Canary, this, that, and the Black Superman by J.J. Abrams and Tanashi Coates. People still think that's happening. There's an article I'll get into about that a little bit later on as well. So there's that. Let's talk about this Flash rumour though. So, Warner Brothers Discovery is rumoured to be interested in actor George McKay taking over the role of the Flash from Ezra Miller after the film releases. This is by Grace Randolph. George McKay is a British actor, a very, very good British actor. I am not opposed to him taking the role. I'd never ever believe anything that Grace Randolph says these days. After she said there was going to be somebody's genitals in a diamond in Birds of Prey, and said Wonder Woman 84 would implement Flashpoint, but not directly like the comics. Neither thing actually happened. Whether it was going to happen or not, something I won't go into, but she's been very, very inaccurate. And to me, her only source was Toby Emmerich, and he's left the building. So what do I make of this rumour? Well, listen, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to start saying Ezra Miller is going to be recast. Now, they have got the perfect tool of Flashpoint to recast him. They can change the actor who plays Barry Allen or introduce another Flash, another version of the Flash. What I would do is I would bring in Grant Gustin as Barry Allen using Flashpoint and introduce the Flash family as well. The Flash has got kids. You know, there's different characters, there's different versions of the Flash. And the DCEU still doesn't have a Reverse Flash. If you can do a Black Adam movie, why can't we do a Reverse Flash origin movie? How awesome would that be? So do I believe that George McKay is being considered as the next Flash? Why not? Why wouldn't they do that? If they're thinking of recasting him. One thing I know, I think Ezra Miller is done. Now, let me explain to you why Ezra Miller is done. It's not just the embarrassment. It's not just that kids can't look up to this guy anymore. But he has got a lot of legal proceedings coming his way. And the problem Warner Brothers Discovery have now, they're praying none of this shit lands before the Flash movie is released in June. Now, I was told David Zaslav actually wanted to release the Flash movie now, as soon as possible, around this time that Black Adam's been released, before they moved Black Adam here. Why? Because he's worried more shit will hit more fans very quickly. He quickly realised he couldn't do that. Why? Because it's a Flashpoint movie, and some of the other movies were supposed to release before that, which means it's all a bit of a jumble. Right now, because they've moved things around, they're doing reshoots, resetting things so it's not confusing. So it's a bit of a problem. And because of the Flashpoint element of it, and because there's a multiverse strategy within it, and again, I don't know how much of that multiverse strategy will stand in the Flash movie now, but that's why they can't release it now. But Zaslav really wanted to release this film as soon as possible and get rid of Ezra Miller before more shit hits the fans. Because he has got a lot of legal proceedings coming his way. The first one right now is about him breaking into his neighbours and stealing some alcohol. Now, he'll probably get away with that. Even if he's found guilty, he ain't going to get the full 26 years. I don't think he's ever been convicted of anything before. He'll get probation or something, right? Maybe he'll go to a school where he learns not to break into people's houses and steal alcohol, because that's the kind of world we live in. But sooner or later, he's going to be caught out, and more legal proceedings are coming their way. So can they avoid controversy with this guy prior to June, when the Flash movie is released? You could roll a dice and anything can happen here. This is why I think that the present DCEU can change and is in flux at any moment, especially when they announce the new head of DC Studios. So nothing is set in stone now Hamada's gone. And, you know, it would have been better to release the Flash now. Release the Flash, get rid of him, move away from him as soon as possible. That's what they want to do. Nobody behind the scenes is supporting Ezra Miller, but they've made this film and they have no choice to stand by him for now. This is why they had a big meeting with him and said, listen, right, if you do one more fucking thing, if one more thing comes out, we are cancelling this movie. Now, that changed Ezra's mentality, because one thing, and as I've always said, he loves The Flash, he cares about this movie, he doesn't want it binned. That's why he decided, right, I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. There you go. But that's how he sees it. But I'm going to start behaving. I don't want this film cancelled. But the problem is, even if he behaves himself, something else may come out. There may be a legal proceeding so embarrassing to the upcoming picture that that picture could be shelved forever. Not a bad idea, but we all want it released and we all want to celebrate that movie like we're all celebrating Black Adam. So that's the rumour. George McKay could be replacing Ezra Miller. Is Randolph right, wrong about this? What do you think? I think she's very inconsistent. There's many things she's got wrong, and anything can happen here. But I do believe he's being replaced. But with Flashpoint, the Flashpoint movie now could be an entire reboot, which basically says all that shit before it doesn't exist anymore. But hey, here's the actor who played Superman originally, and he's a Flashpoint Superman. He's from another Earth or something like that. They may go with that. In fact, this Superman could be the Flashpoint Superman that Barry meets, just like Michael Keaton's Batman, but somehow when he goes back to Earth 1, he's there. And I think they're the kind of things they're looking at. It's the same with Supergirl, who he meets in the Flashpoint universe. So that's an interesting thing. So I think we are looking at a brand new franchise after the Flash movie. Now, it was always going to be that it was going to be Hamada's vision. So we will wait and see who replaces Ezra Miller as this character. So there's that. So past few days, we found out all the reviews of Black Adam, and they're mixed. It's about 45% rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. That means nearly half of critics like Black Adam, or basically went there and said, you know what, I enjoyed this film. Cool. It's okay. I didn't expect it to be anything else but what I saw. That's honesty, right? The others are being dishonest and saying, ooh, this script is terrible, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I do feel that The Rock brought in the wrong people. He brought in people he knew and trusted, which can be a good thing. Personally, I think David F. Sandberg and the people who constructed Shazam and Shazam Fury of the Gods should have been doing this film. It's the same universe, for Christ's sake, but The Rock didn't want that. Now, I know, like, David F. Sandberg's just done, like Shazam 2, but they could have fixed the schedule to do it all. Black Adam could have been the Shazam sequel. They could have had Shazam, Billy, the Shazam family, The Rock, aka Black Adam, in a Shazam sequel. It could have worked, but no, The Rock wanted Black Adam to have his own movie. I don't think Black Adam should have had his own movie. Although I enjoyed the movie, I don't think there's much there. And I think this was the problem they found when they were writing the movie. So when you see the movie, it does seem like the empty vase. If you like, the empty vase. There's me going all American. And so it doesn't seem like there's a lot to it. It's great action. It works for what it is. But it was never going to be anything more. So I think there are things that critics bring up that are genuine. But ultimately, you went into a movie starring The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. What did you think you were going to get? None of his movies are ever that good, but they're entertaining. And this movie is the best movie he's ever been in. But I don't know anyone who's seen this movie who's kind of disappointed. Cheers, clapping, everyone's loving what they went to see. So, listen, look, we live in a weird world right now where everyone has agendas. And when you've got these critics with agendas, they hate WB because of the Snyder situation. They hate WB because of the Batgirl situation. They hate Zaslav because they think he's a Republican. Oh, I'm going to mark this film down. I'm going to find a way to mark this film down. When you and I know it is what it said on the tin. You know, calling it the worst movie ever. That's not a review. That's not a constructive criticism. What do you mean by that? And so there's the thing with that. So the problem is these days, everyone has their different agendas and they're not being honest with you. Critics were invented and founded to give you, the consumer, information so you can make your mind up. This doesn't sound like my type of film. Because of that review, I'm not going to go and see it. Thank you for the advice. They were supposed to be advisors. But now their egos have become so large because they think they wield power. And in a way, they do wield power. They can influence the public, not you and me, because we know. We know our own minds. We're geeks and nerds. But the central audience are very important. The mainstream audience are very, very important when it comes to movies, especially comic book movies, because so much investment is put into them. And so there's all these agendas. Oh, I'm anti-DCEU, or they didn't do Middle Eastern commentary or whatever. We've become ridiculous. So, and this is not just about DC, like some people think. It's we only have this discussion when it's about DC. No, I believe that critical entertainment journalism isn't fit for purpose. And there needs to be some kind of governing body to make sure they're not being influenced by studios or by agendas. Because right now they have a free rein to say whatever they want, even if they don't mean it. There's some of them that will just shill a movie. And then there's review bombing. Because make no mistake, what critics are doing here with Black Adam is review bombing. We're accused of review bombing. The problem with Rotten Tomatoes and the system right now, and why it's problematic, is because everyone is review bombing of some sort. Positive review bombing, negative review bombing by fans, positive and negative review bombing by the media, access media, aka critics. Everyone is review bombing. That means this system no longer works, and you must screw it in your hands like an empty piece of paper or a beer can when you finish with it and toss it over your shoulders. It doesn't work. We don't need reviews anymore. The review is just part of the egomaniac now, and critics are egomaniacs. They know The Last Jedi was problematic. They were giving it good write-up. What were you giving it a good write-up about? It's the most boring Star Wars film ever made. It looks great, it looks like Star Wars, and you could give it a thumbs up for that. But the rest of it was utterly problematic. And if you think it was the perfect movie you gave it 5 stars for, then you don't understand Star Wars. Because it simply didn't work on so many levels. But again, there was a political agenda with The Last Jedi as well. I admit that with the people who hated it, because this is where the fandom menace arose. I view Gary Beekler, who's neurotic. I think he's so well presented. The presentation of his videos is amazing. His takedowns are skillful. In fact, it's hard to believe this is a guy with no media training who used to be a comic shop owner. I find that hard to believe because he's so good. His takedown of the Rings of Power is expertise. It's done with so much expertise. And I like the fandom menace, not because I agree with their politics, because I'm not a right-winger. If you are a right-winger, that's okay, but I'm not. I'm not there for politics. They keep on saying politics shouldn't be part of movies. Now, I love Nerdrodic, but I saw a tweet from him talking about Black Adam, and he said this: I'm going to watch a film starring The Rock where he plays The Rock, and I still haven't forgiven him. No, this is what he said: bringing Henry Cavill back doesn't get him off the hook for basically going against Trump and giving Biden the thumbs up. So he's always saying we shouldn't bring politics into movies, and he's bringing politics into movies. So I suppose we're all hypocrites at times. So I think the fandom menace are important to hold this industry to account, because someone has to, and they're doing it well. And we can see from She-Hulk how much they're being triggered, but also they're just doing it to make money. And I get that, but I do think they're important from a certain point of view. But the political shit, I'm not interested in. Right, it's time to get into our first article. Black Adam versus Superman, a main event worth waiting for. I couldn't agree more. Let's not rush into this, but it's going to happen. And thankfully, with all these Hamada movies coming up, it's something they can really think about. Although they may reference it again in one of these movies, because they are reasserting these movies and adding things to them all the time. Everyone's asking when the Man of Steel will fight the Man in Black, but Dwayne Johnson knows how to take time and build hype for this slugfest. This is by Greg Katzman of CBR.com. Fans everywhere are saying they want to see Black Adam versus Superman on the big screen, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has been teasing an eventual epic clash between these two powerhouses. But Johnson's Black Adam throwing down with Henry Cavill's Superman should be a huge event for the DC Extended Universe, and something that momentum should be built up. I agree, not rushed. I think the Batman versus Superman thing was rushed. The death of Superman thing was rushed. Thankfully, it's looking more and more like that's what the superstar wants to do, even calling Black Adam phase 1 of this new story. Yes, it is a kind of a phase 1 of the new DCEU and this story as a whole. After more than a decade of development, Black Adam is finally here, and the blockbuster actor's done an incredible job promoting it. Yeah, that's an understatement. It's been one of the best marketing drives. One of the problems with The Rock is some people love him and some people just think he's full of ego and arrogance, and that's something that may be putting some people off from going to see this movie, unfortunately. Personally, I love the guy. He's been hitting the same messaging on social media and in interviews over and over again, claiming Black Adam is a huge movie for the future of the DCEU and something that DC fans need to see on the big screen. How many times have you heard the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change, or the age of heroes is over, or a new era of the DC universe begins? It's an effective strategy to ensure the key messaging about the film is driven home. And it's been heard loud and clear by comic book movie fans. Also, when you're telling people, look, the hierarchy of power is about to change. The DC universe is about to change. Why is he doing that? Because some people don't like the DCEU from the past. And this is kind of meant to assure people that we're listening, we understand, and we're about to do something a little bit different. While Johnson's been building the significance of Black Adam, one question keeps popping up from fans and the press. What about Henry Cavill's Superman? While all eyes should be on Tef Adam, aka Black Adam, it's an understandable question given Cavill's unclear status as the Man of Tomorrow in the DCEU. Despite being one of DC's biggest characters, the Big Blue Boy Scout's absence over the past several years has been felt, and the Man of Steel's two brief cameos in Shazam and Peacemaker's purposefully hid the identity of the actor who stepped into the suit to briefly bring the classic character to life. Like Johnston stated in an interview, Superman's been on the sidelines for far too long. Yes, the body thing in the Superman body cameo in Shazam and kind of the shadowy Superman in Peacemaker was because they were planning on recasting the character. Because they had issues with Cavill and Cavill had issues with them. I'll be honest with you, I don't really understand totally and in detail why the two parties had issues with each other, and I guess we'll never know. I think it's a creative situation. Johnson has assured audiences that he's a fan of Cavill's Man of Steel when asked about the two characters eventually having a superpowered slugfest on the big screen. The fan favourite actor replied, "Absolutely, that is the whole point of this, man. But does that mean Superman vs. Black Adam will be in the next Black Adam movie? Will it be in the next Superman movie, or is it a big event movie? Or is there another strategy? Nothing has been officially revealed about the next steps for Tef Adam in the DCEU, but one thing is clear. The next movie should not be Black Adam versus Superman. Instead, it should build the foundation for a fight between these two titans. Yes, there needs to be motivation for a fight. They just can't fight. We know the motivation now, thanks to that post-credit scene, and it's all to do with Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller has literally kind of gone to the Justice League and said, you owe me big time, right? If you don't want me to cause you problems over a certain situation, whatever that is, I want you to deal with this big threat. So, it's basically Superman, because I think in the new DC Extended Universe, Superman will be the leader of the Justice League. No question about that. That's why he's been sent. Obviously, Batman wouldn't go there. There'd be no point. He'd crush Batman in 5 seconds. So it has to be Superman. So I think Superman is the new head of the Justice League anyway. So he's gone there to represent the Justice League, basically. From Johnson's days as a wrestler, he knows how to keep the fans engaged and excited while also building up to the thing they ultimately want to see. After the Black Adam credits scene, now is the last time to get out if you're still avoiding spoilers. Right, spoilers ahead, everyone. You know what you have to do. The next movie being the big battle would make no sense and feel like it's rushing the conflict. Black Adam's credit scene confirms Cavill is back in the suit. And in his brief cameo, he tells Tef Adam that the world is nervous and they need to talk. If the world is nervous about the emergence of Black Adam Black Adam, fans need to witness that. How is the world responding? If Superman is saying they need to talk, we need to see those arguments. This clash presents a great opportunity for Superman to step forward as the voice of hope in the DCEU, especially if they pull some inspiration from Action Comics #775. This is how I would do it if that's the way you're going to go. So next time we see this continuation, maybe Black Adam arrives at the base of the Justice League, whether it's the Hall of Justice, whether it's a Watchtower, whatever. And I want to see that in the future of this universe. I want to see the Hall of Justice like I saw it in Bruce Timm's animated series. This is what we want to see. It's what you call world building, right? I want him to go to the headquarters. I want them to sit round a round table and start having maybe peace talks, discussions. Maybe those talks break down. So this journalist is making some really, really good logical steps here and good points. Going from Superman saying we need to talk right to the big event would be a massive mistake. Now that Black Adam has been established, fans need to see how he interacts with the pre-existing icons in the DCEU, not just Superman, but what about Zachary Levi's Shazam, especially given the shared history with the Wizard? What about Viola Davis's Amanda Waller? Well, there's already been a little conversation there, and unfortunately, Amanda Waller and Black Adam come from the same kind of school of thought. It's all threats and intimidation. I love it. I love Viola as Amanda Waller. As I said on the top of the show, every time we've seen her, she's been on point. She's so comic book accurate. That is the character. And whoever she has available for a new Task Force X roster, especially since she's already threatened Tiff Adam. Yeah, that was a threat. What about the other key members of the Justice League? How does the newly established Justice Society of America fit into all of this? There is so much potential to further highlight Black Adam's unique position within the DCEU by having him interact with the other main characters in the universe. Trying to cram all of this into one movie would be doing the story a major disservice. Yes, I agree. There's a momentum here that they can build for years, if handled properly, eventually having it all culminate in a massive theatrical experience. The next movie needs to set up the building blocks for Black Adam's battle with the rest of the DCEU. Fans need to witness the divide building between the two sides as a pivotal storyline illustrates the ethical differences and justifies a big event. Something needs to occur to make it clear that talking is no longer an option yet. And I said that with my idea. One of the things that has been lacking from the DCEU over the past several years is a cohesive vision and plan. Yeah, and let me just say, I don't think they've actually got a plan even now. I think they're planning now. Each project has played in its own section while only casually acknowledging the rest of the universe. Black Adam is the first DCEU movie in years that has the potential to move the whole universe forward, and containing that potentially epic arc to just one movie would be a missed opportunity for fans of the DC universe. We'll have to wait and see what happens next, but hopefully the powers that be are paving the way towards something loosely inspired by Kingdom Come. That would be amazing. World War III or Action Comics 775, or perhaps even a mix of all three. Let Black Adam's rage prove that the age of heroes isn't over in the DCEU. It's only just begun. So Black Adam is in theatres. Now go and see it after you see this video, of course. And look, I agree with this. And actually, The Rock agrees with this because he's already said this. He goes, it's not just about a fight. We need to build this out and do this properly. And teasing a huge mismatch would be amazing. Now, the original Hamada plan was Justice League Suicide Squad versus Black Adam. I think there's an opportunity here for Black Adam to go and recruit some other villains. You know, Joker, Luthor, whoever. All these different villains we haven't even met within the DC Extended Universe yet. So this could lead to a huge event that would be really awesome and epic. So now we have a fluff piece trying to prove that Walter Hamada was good at his job. So let's give it a read. First of all, I want to say this. The people who worked on Shazam worked very closely with Walter over at New Line Cinema on the horror division. And most importantly, that's David F. Sandberg. So they will defend Walter Hamada and try and make him look more competent than he actually was. Shazam's screenwriter Henry Gayden revealed how former DC Films president Walter Hamada came up with the film's most devastating moment by Brendan Klein. The writer of Shazam has revealed how the superhero film's most important and heartbreaking scene came from a DC executive's note. Shazam, which came to theatres in April 2019, follows a rebellious 13-year-old foster kid named Billy Batson, Asher Angel, who is given the power to transform into a powerful adult superhero, Zachary Levi, by the wizard Shazam, Digimon Huznu. The film's overall arc is about Billy learning to stop selfishly pursuing his own desires and work together as part of a team and a family in order to prevent the 7 deadly sins from being unleashed upon the world by the villain Dr. Theodos Savannah, Mark Strong. One of the strongest, no pun there, but one of the strongest supervillain performances in the DCEU, by the way. Although a follow-up is on its way in 2023's Shazam! Fury of the Gods, the future of the DCEU is currently on shaky ground. Now, this is interesting because David F. Sandberg is part of that Hamada team. He really is, because we know he worked very closely with Walter Hamada at New Line Cinema and on that horror division. Does this mean that David F. Sandberg is finished after Fury of the Gods? That's a very interesting question, and at this time we simply don't know. While the year started with the explosive success of the Suicide Squad spin-off series Peacemaker, the future of the franchise has become murky, with both the Shazam and Aquaman sequels experiencing frequent delays and the recent merger between Warner Brothers and Discovery bringing in a new regime that is refocusing the company's mission, which included removing the upcoming HBO Max film Batgirl from the slate altogether. This week, the franchise was dealt another blow when it was announced that DC Films president Walter Hamada is leaving the company. Why is that a blow? You know, there's agendas, isn't there? There's agendas with different journalists, and it's all political as well. So anyway, some people think this is the best news ever. Some people think it's a disaster. So, where have we gone? Why have I lost? Hang on, I'll be back in a minute. Something's gone wrong. I'm back, baby. Sorry about that. Apologies. Right. Henry Gayden posted some stuff on Twitter, the writer of Shazam. Screenwriters tend to grouse about studio execs and their notes. Sometimes it's deserved, but I always tell this story as an example of how transformative a good note can be. And since Walt left DC today, here it is in early drafts of Shazam. Billy's parents were dead. Yeah, you know what? We all talk about the negativity of like execs' notes, but sometimes these people have got some really good ideas, and I've experienced that myself. Late in Act 2, he discovered their gravestones in a Philly cemetery. It was very route, we've seen this in other movies, and yet I thought, I hope the visual of a kid finding his parents' gravestones might prove affecting. Then one weekend out of nowhere, Walt called me up and said, what if Billy's mom is still alive but doesn't want him? My immediate response was, no way. That's way too heavy for a movie this light-hearted. But that's the thing about Shazam. It's very light, but it's very dark in places as well. Very horror movie-esque. That's what I liked about it. To be clear, the writer me was telling the studio exec president Walt that he was going too far out on a limb, that he was taking too big of a swing creatively. I was adamant about how it wouldn't work. So we ended the conversation with him saying, just try writing it. He finds his mom and she doesn't want him. If it doesn't work, we have the cemetery scene, try it. I hung up. All I had was the basic idea. No character, no setting. I sat down and tried to write the scene. An hour later, it was my favourite scene in the movie. Yes, sometimes people can have good ideas. I mean, I run a theatre company here in Cyprus. I write, produce, direct and star in my own original plays. I'll be playing Ebenezer Scrooge there this year, this Christmas, and it's one of my favourite characters. It's one of my favourite stories. I love the works of Dickens. And, you know, I always get cast members saying to me, Mick, what about this? And what you've always got to do when people give you ideas is be respectful. Listen. It may be good. If it's bad, you know, you put your hands on their shoulders and you say, look, I like it. Come back with more ideas. It's not a problem, but we're not going to be using this one. But thank you. Thank you for your input. And that's how you have a good environment when you're working creatively. Anyway, that was the scene that movie needed so much. So when we were filming it, I told our producer on set, if this scene doesn't work, the whole movie doesn't work. Unbeknownst to me, the actress playing Billy's mom, Caroline Palmer, at Care, all praise, was 10 feet away from me when I said that. She later told me that my words chilled her, terrified her. I can't believe I did that to her. Luckily, she was even better than we dreamed. She was an amazing casting. She done such a good job, didn't she? Unbeknownst to me, no, we've been there. I still believe the movie wouldn't fully work without that scene, and it was Walt's idea. I literally told him he was crazy. So, yeah, that's mad, isn't it? That's great. But yeah, Walt Hamada isn't 100% problematic, and if Emmerich and the rest of them weren't pulling his strings, things would have worked out better if they weren't pressuring him to pressure Ray Fisher into throwing, Joss Whedon under the bus instead of Geoff Johns. Things could have been different. Unfortunately, a man who had a prominent career at New Line Cinema has now got no career at this studio. And of course, that's sad. On his official Twitter account, Shazam screenwriter Henry Gayden shared a thread honouring Hamada's creative contributions to the DCEU. He revealed that one of the most devastating scenes of the film, when Billy finds his birth mother and learns that she willingly gave him up to foster care and has no desire to have him back in her life, was actually a suggestion from Hamada, who thought that the original scene with Billy visiting his parents' graves was too route. Although he understands the irony of this situation, Gayden told Hamada that he was taking too big of a swing creatively. But he was encouraged to sit down and write the scene. And once he did, he said that an hour later, it was my favourite scene in the movie. The studio note ended up being key in Billy Batson's Shazam character arc. The film was already about him embracing a found family in the form of the kids around him in his foster group home. But this scene makes them coming together in the end much more meaningful. His quest to find his birth mother has been the driving motivation of his entire life. But up to this point, so the fact that she's still alive is an instrumental illustration of him actively making the choice to join his foster family rather than continue trying to find a place in the family he was born into. Considering his contributions, Hamada's exit will have untold impact on the future of the DCEU. No. He come up with a good fucking idea. That means nothing. However, Shazam fans can at least rest easy that the sequel was made while under his regime. These people, man. Hopefully the film will be able to strike the same balance of light-hearted humour and serious meaning that made the original such a success. Now, this is coming from a journalist, source Henry Gayden, Twitter. They don't do any investigative journalism anymore. Anyway, this is a propaganda piece. It's just to say, well, look, he's gone. You're all happy he's gone. But look, once he came up with a good idea, and that's great. Maybe he came up with a lot of good ideas with the other films, and that's good. But unfortunately, he was part of a toxic kind of unit at Warner Brothers Pictures. And Zaslav doesn't want that. He doesn't want him because he doesn't feel he knows enough about the universe, about these characters. They're trying to... Look, Zaslav has a different idea. And it isn't Walter Hamada. We'll have to wait and see if this new person does a better job. But there are reasons that this has happened. Clearly, he doesn't believe in Hamada for one reason or the other, and he's gone. And if we do want Ray Fisher back, Hamada had to go. It was very complicated. I think, at the end of the day, it was the right decision. Man of Steel's most controversial scene defended by Kevin Smith. To be fair, Kevin Smith is the biggest of shills, and he'll defend anything. But he has got a movie theatre where he's going to be showing Zack Snyder's Justice League for the first time on a big cinema screen. Unfortunately, none of us randoms are going to get to see it, and it's the normal kind of butt kissers who will get a free ticket. But never mind, I'm happy for Zack, and one of the best superhero movies ever made. Acclaimed Clerks and Mallrats writer and director Kevin Smith defends Man of Steel's most controversial scene, in which Superman kills General Zod, by Brandon Lewis of Screen Rant. Acclaimed writer and director Kevin Smith recently defended Man of Steel's most controversial scene. Directed by Zack Snyder, the 2013 Man of Steel kicked off the DC Extended Universe (DCEU), although the film received mixed reviews upon release. Critics and fans praised Henry Cavill's portrayal of the titular superhero. The actor subsequently reprised the role in Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice and Justice League 2017, and one they don't say here, I don't think, is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Snyder and screenwriter David S. Goyer more grounded approach to Superman polarized much of the audience. The film uses non-linear narrative approach to dissect Clark Kent's psyche and what makes him the superhero he needs to be to defeat General Zod Michael Shannon. With the Kryptonian warrior and Superman fighting for the future of the Earth, Clark realized that he needed to kill Zod to save everyone. The act caused immense pain for the superhero, but also proved to be one of the most controversial moments in Superman's cinematic history. I've spoken about this so many times. This doesn't actually trigger me personally, but it takes away the avenue for parents to take their children to see this, because Superman violently breaks someone's neck. And I've read this article, and the excuses that Smith uses here are the usual. Well, he was killing people in the 70s. Anyway, we'll get into it. While sharing his opinion on GQ regarding past Superman and Batman portrayals in the film and television, Smith defended Man of Steel's most controversial scene. The director acknowledged that many of the moments that detractors argue that Superman is a person who doesn't kill. However, Smith recalled that Man of Steel was not the only movie the character killed another on screen. Previously, in fact, Superman killed Zod in the beloved Superman 2, starring Christopher Reeve. Read what Smith said below. There is no evidence that Superman kills Zod, Ursa, and Non in Superman 2. He pushes them, they slide down something, and they go underneath. They go to the bottom of the Fortress of Solitude. There's no evidence that means they're dead. But people are using this to defend what happens in Man of Steel. As I said, I love the scene. It's compelling. It sucked out all the oxygen of the cinema I was in. It was amazing. But all I'm saying is, I don't think it's really the right direction to go in with Superman. And making up bullshit about Superman killing in Superman 2 is nonsense. Anyway, so this is what he said. His Superman very controversial snapped General Zod's neck, which I didn't quite understand was controversial, because in Superman 2, General Zod is also killed. No, he's not. You don't know that in the Fortress of Solitude. They just presumably leave his body. You didn't see him die. You literally don't see him die. No one's ever confirmed that, Zod, Ursa, and Non get killed. So when people are like, hey, man, this ain't Superman, I'm like, I don't know. Superman was killing people in the 70s and the 80s as well. Who did he kill in the 80s then? Please tell me. Please tell me. Anyway. Smith's confusion at Superman's decision to kill in Man of Steel is apt, as fans have previously shown no issue regarding Zod's murder in Superman 2, because we don't know that he was murdered. In fact, I'm going to say it. He didn't die. He didn't die. I'm assuming, and I always assumed as a kid, that he's in some kind of prison in the fortress. Something happened. Basically, the film was wrong for not explaining it better. It was a bit simplistic. But you don't actually know they're dead. So it's a ridiculous defense. Taking into account the context surrounding both scenes, the Superman 2 moment seems particularly worse than is in Man of Steel's counterpart. Oh my God, let me just read this again, right? The Superman 2 moment seems particularly worse than in its Man of Steel counterpart. Right, let's talk about this. What's worse? A character that's meant for kids, right, snapping someone's neck violently, or Superman pushing these people and they just slide down this ice slide and you never see them again? What's fucking worse, you idiots? In Snyder's film, Zod was threatening a family trapped in the path of his heat vision. If Superman did not kill him at that moment, the family would die a brutal death. To save the family and eventually the human race, Superman had to kill Zod. However, in Superman 2, Clark removes Zod's powers, effectively turning him into a human. Superman then casually lifts the Kryptonian general and throws him down a seemingly bottomless chasm. But you don't know that it's a bottomless chasm. You don't know where that leads, because the fortress is literally infinite. So you don't know where that actually leads, which means you don't know that he dies. This is just a bad defense. I'm sorry. Chasm killing him. With Zod no longer posing Superman a threat at that moment, the villain's murder seems particularly cruel. Murder! Murder! You didn't see a murder! You didn't see anyone die! Oh my God, this is journalism, is it? This is so bad. Earlier this week, Warner Bros. Revealed that the studio was looking to continue the Man of Steel story with a sequel. Well, let me tell you into another secret. Basically, there's no Man of Steel 2. It's not a continuation because this will be a brand new Superman. That won't be a sequel. Now, I could be wrong about that, but looking at the spit curl, the costume, it don't look like we're doing a Man of Steel direct sequel. However, considering the backlash to Zod's death and the overall dark and joyless tone of Batman vs Superman, well, I did get a lot of joy out of Batman vs Superman, actually. Anyway, Dawn of Justice, some have speculated if the upcoming potential sequel will maintain its predecessor's darker tone. No. Or follow in the footsteps of the DCEU films like Shazam and Aquaman, which took an even-handed page from the lighter-toned approach of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh, shut up. With the debate over Zod's death still raging in certain corners of the DCEU fandom, perhaps the Man of Steel sequel can address the controversy head on to illustrate how such a drastic action affected the hero's development. And here's the thing about the neck snapping incident. It doesn't inform Superman in the next movie. It's totally forgotten about. Let's look what happens after that. We've got, I think he's kind of hot. We get a really good scene between Martha and Clark talking about Jonathan, and we get that great scene when he's a kid wearing the cape. I love that. But then we get the whole welcome to the planet, which I like that ending. It's adorable, but he's just snapped someone's neck and it's never discussed. You know, that scene with Martha and Clark could have been, Mom, I've killed once. It felt horrible. I never want to have that feeling again. That would have been a great thing to say. But there, apart from him screaming and being upset, there was no verbal regret. And that's the problem. If they did that in that scene, nearly nobody would have kicked off about it because Goya made it an impossibility for Superman to have any other choice but to kill Zod. And I get that. But it's all in the writing, isn't it? Ultimately, Superman doesn't need to kill. But I do think we need an examination in a film, in the DCEU, of his no-kill policy to make people understand. But let's get one thing clear. Superman didn't murder anyone in Superman 2, and you can fight me on that outside in the car park. So in the coming days and weeks, the Superman cameo in Black Adam will be the conversation everywhere. And here's a bit of a long quote from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Well, I've known Henry for a long time. We're buddies. My longtime business partner, Danny Garcia, she has been a big advocate for Henry. She's managed Henry's career over the years. It's come down to, for years. It's come down to, dude, we love Superman. There is new leadership about to happen in Warner Brothers. Here's an opportunity on our end of Black Adam. We will do everything we can to pay homage and respect to the mythology of Black Adam and build him as being the most powerful and unstoppable force on this planet. And if we do our job right at the end of the movie, then it comes not only the most powerful and unstoppable force in the entire universe in Superman, but also the one the fans want. And that's the difference. And that's the new era I'm talking about. This new era in the DC universe is we listen, man. We listen to the fans, and we may not be able to do every single thing that they want, but they're not going to know that they're not, let's say that again, they want. But they're going to know that they're not ignored because they've been ignored for so long. And of course, these are facts. But we're going to listen to them, man. So in presenting that to Henry, he also, man, when it comes to Superman, I don't know if there's any other person on the planet who loves and embodies the mythology, the ethos and everything of Superman than Henry. Yeah. One of the problems with him and the old leadership of Warner Brothers Pictures, he was really being the big defender for Superman and they basically told them, stop fucking this character up. This character is so important. And I'm so happy that it all came together. I'm so happy that the fans are losing their minds over it. And I'm so happy that there is a new shift in this DC universe and Superman is back. Did you hear that? Superman is back. Those words, everyone, are fucking beautiful. And the future in the DC Extended Universe is all about Superman. And as a huge Superman fan, him being my favourite first character I was ever introduced to, my first movie I ever watched. I'm so excited that it's Henry and he's back. But there's going to be controversy, like always in this fandom, because it doesn't seem to be Zack Snyder's Superman. Black Superman reboot reportedly still in development. Despite Man of Steel 2 being in development, J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Superman reboot is moving forward at Warner Brothers Discovery by Andy, whose surname I could never pronounce. This is a very funny story I've got for you, actually. This journalist, Andy, he was saying something about people saying, coming at him sometimes, and he's proud of himself for being a journalist. So I said, look, I read your articles all the time, as I do. And it's funny, actually, he got back to me and thanked me, but he said, oh, actually, someone sent me one of your videos and you said, about me using the words journalist loosely. And I thought that was really funny. I gave him a compliment, then he exposed me that once I said something not so nice about him. Listen, I'll stand by my comments, but I do read your articles. They're all right. And I'm happy to read your articles. It was just a funny little story that happens on Twitter to me all the time, because I speak before I think. And I think most of us do that these days anyway. J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Superman reboot is reportedly still in active development at Warner Brothers Discovery. The DC brand has had a big shake-up in 2022 as Warner Brothers Discovery completed its massive merger earlier this year. On the small screen, the CW lost multiple DC TV shows as the network is getting a new majority stake owner. Over on the cinematic side for DC, Warner Brothers Discovery cancelled the Batgirl movie, despite the film having already finished principal photography in late March. While the DCEU is still moving forward, well, is it? And nothing is certain. I keep on saying that. New leadership means new ideas. The DCEU is not safe at this moment and could be replaced with something else. There's been a lot of uncertainty despite Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav promising there is a 10-year plan for the DC IPs. Black Adam, which opened in theatres this week, was the only DCEU installment for 2022 as The Flash, Shazam, Fury of the Gods and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom all got pushed back to 2023. Outside the main DCEU continuity, Warner Brothers Discovery has Joker Folie à Deux getting ready to start principal photography, and the Batman 2 is also in active development. However, another non-DCEU project that the studio has been working on is a Superman reboot, which would feature a black iteration of the Man of Steel from film J.J. Abrams and screenwriter Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm not going to give my views till I finish this article. Even though there have been little to no updates on the Black Superman project, The Hollywood Reporter revealed that the film is still moving forward at Warner Brothers Discovery, even though Abrams' role with the studio is unclear at this point, especially as several of his WB-produced projects have been cancelled or looking for new platforms. The trade specified that he's still on the track to produce Coates' new Superman film. There is still no update on where they are at with the script and casting, as well as who would direct the Black Superman reboot. Well, their plan would be for a female of colour to direct it. I even know who they were planning on. Anyway, the news that a Black Superman reimagination is still happening comes at the same point as reports about the studio looking to develop Man of Steel 2 for Henry Cavill's version of the DC icon. Even though there are no clear release dates for either project, there is no reason why both films couldn't exist at the same time. One of the concepts that the DCEU is beginning to lean more into is the multiverse. Well, that was the Hamada plan, not necessarily the new plan, allowing multiple DC franchises to utilize various characters from the DC universe, which will be a crucial aspect of the Flash movie, since Coates' Superman movie would be set on a new Earth. It doesn't conflict with the DCEU, allowing the reboot to explore a black iteration of Krypton's last son, while Cavill reprises his iteration in Man of Steel 2. Sorry about my throat. It's also worth remembering that the CW still has Superman and Lois on the air for now. And HBO Max is developing a Val Zod series with Michael B. Jordan as an executive producer, focusing on a different Man of Steel from Earth 2. In theory, if all of those projects are ongoing in the next few years, there could be 4 different interpretations of Superman in live action, both on the big and small screens. Everything can coexist at the same time without one property suffering because of the other, as it allows consumers to pick and choose what resonates with them, or maybe consume them all. With the recent departure of DC Films boss Walter Hamada, time will tell if Abrams and Co.'s Black Superman movie will happen, as things could still fall apart depending on what happens with Warner Brothers Discovery and their plans for the DC properties in the coming years. Toby Emmerich brought in J.J. Abrams for a lot of money. He made a deal with his Bad Robot company, but it was a non-exclusive deal. Zaslav doesn't like this. Right, we've heard jack about the J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman of Color, Black Clark Kent movie. We've heard nothing about it, and it doesn't look like it's happening. Now, the Val Zod thing, which I was even more excited about, because Val Zod has an even more interesting backstory than Kal-El's Superman. So I would have been interested in all of this stuff. Even the Ta-Nehisi Coates thing sounds interesting. Now, I think, deciding that we need a Black Clark Kent is a little bit toxic, considering we do have Val Zod, a Superman of color, and as I've said many times, we have a President Superman who's also based on former President Barack Obama. So we've got 2 Supermen of color there. So why do we need a Black Clark Kent? Now, as I said, I think a decade-spanning Black Clark Kent could be quite interesting, and Ta-Nehisi Coates is an interesting writer, but he's also a social justice warrior. In other words, he's a propaganda merchant. So is any of this still happening? As I've said many times on yesterday's video and today's video, at the end of the day, Walter Hamada has gone, Toby Emmerich has gone, and Sarnoff has gone. All these people who brought all these other people in and started, creating this new slate for DC, mostly on HBO Max, by the way, there wasn't going to be many cinematic efforts. Those plans are in the chute. They are going to be over. They are going to be cancelled. If you haven't already made the movie, you're fucked. It's all done. None of this is happening. Forget about it. And I warned you about that Hollywood Reporter article. It released at that time to distract from the negative Black Adam reviews and the projections, the subtraction of rejections for the Black Adam opening box office, because apparently it's going to be a lot lower than first thought. That article was supposed to get you excited about the future. A Man of Steel 2 is happening. Oh my God. So I think the studio had something to do with it. So at this moment in time, I believe jack shit from that article. Even the Man of Steel 2 stuff. Even referencing it as Man of Steel 2 is bullshit. Saying Charles Roven's going to be involved, because Charles Roven would have to be involved with a Henry Cavill Superman movie, because Henry Cavill was already in his production. So this guy would have a production credit and really wouldn't have any authority over any movie. And so I don't trust that Hollywood Reporter article, and neither should you. I believe J.J. Abrams' Black Superman is done. I don't believe the Val Zod thing will happen unless it can happen on the big screen and not on HBO Max. So basically what I'm saying is new ideas are happening. A new slate is coming. And everything that Hamada, Sarnoff and Emmerich were planning is dead. I knew today's video was going to be really long. I even had to take away an article I was going to read to you. But there's a thread from Will Rowlands, at Will Rowlands Actor on Twitter. Go and follow him. He's a Snyder fan. He says some really interesting things. Slightly controversial character. He's caused some rumblings within the fandom before. But I really like his thread about Black Adam. Clearly, he does have a slight agenda against this movie because it goes against what the Snyderverse is. And so I get that, but I do like what he wrote here. So this is what Will had to say. I have a theory on Black Adam. When it was being filmed, it was under the old regime, correct? So it will contain a lot of Justice League CW Jeff Johns influences. The new regime means they wanted changes. They were happy to get Cavill back, so it's a Frankenstein of a movie. But, this is a good point, I agree. They want us to believe it was always the plan. Note the hierarchy talk changed. Dwayne Johnson praising Emmerich, but now claims the old were the problem. They had to reshoot and adjust rather than lose the money already spent. Plus, wanted to keep Dwayne Johnson, just like Flash. It's come too far to Bing. Exactly. Now, there's more, by the way, but I agree with him here. He's absolutely spot on. Now, he's saying that The Rock was praising, Toby Emmerich. Well, he was his boss, Will. What else do you expect him to do? But he's kind of calling them out now because once your boss is not your boss, you can speak freely. So I'm fine with that. I don't think The Rock's a hypocrite for doing that. So I don't think we will see the true direction until after The Flash, correct? That's when we will see if there's an actual cohesive plan. Yeah, and I don't think they've got much of one right now. I am, however, very concerned at the timeline of this movie. Where does it sit? Where's the BVS and Zack Snyder's Justice League-esque design? Where's the Zimmer theme? If this cameo is a new addition post-new regime, why is it so different to Snyder Canon? I will answer all this for you, Will, actually. I don't know if you watch my videos. He does follow me. I think we're not being told the truth again. Perhaps they are returning to the Snyder Canon, but need to get past these two movies. They've already started. But the warning signs are there that they aren't. And they want Snyderverse... let's say this. Let's start again. Got my words mixed up there. Anyway, aren't. And they want Snyderverse customer base to be weaned into whatever mixture this could become. Why can't they be fully upfront and say exactly what the plan is? Oh, come on, Will. Will's actually an actor. He should know that studios are never honest. Of course they can't be. So I am optimistic that they might be hinting at a return to the original plan, yet extremely cautious. Now, this is a really good thread by Will. Listen, Will Rowland is a Snyder fan. So I understand he's going to come from that point of view. And I'm okay with that because I'm a Snyder fan. But I'm not a here for Zack person. I'm a DC fan. That's my motivations. I'm not just here for one director. I think Will is, and that's okay. So let's talk about what Will had to say there really briefly because the video is getting extremely long if there's actually anyone left still watching it. Right. Let me let you into a secret that you already know, Will. They are not pursuing the Snyderverse. If they were pursuing the Snyderverse, they would have been blatantly honest about that. And they would have said, look, black suit Superman, no spit curl, Hans Zimmer idea of hope. There you go. We're going full throttle back to the Snyderverse. They haven't done that. We are seeing a Henry Cavill Superman, basically in a similar Justice League Superman costume, but this time he has the spit curl. The John Williams theme is all over it. Now, another fan was saying, I was so happy it wasn't on there. It's on there. It's the John Williams theme. I've got the blimming scene saved. I keep on watching it again and again and again because I'm obsessed with it and I love the whole scene. As I said, beginning with the Amanda Waller stuff. Anyway, so the black suit's not there. There are no remnants of the Snyderverse Superman in that sequence. What does this tell you, Will? It's obvious. It is not happening because this was only filmed in September, just about a month ago, or just over a month ago, or under a month ago, right? There is no hint that they are going forward with the Snyderverse when you see this scene. So basically, you can take it as read that this is another universe Superman. As I keep on saying and being boring, I like to repeat myself though, so people don't misunderstand because people always go down their own way and get away from the facts. If your Snyder Superman was still a thing, in a scene that was only filmed a month ago, they would have made sure you know that. Showing us this Superman tells us, guys, the Snyder Superman isn't a thing anymore. The Snyderverse isn't a thing anymore. The Hamadaverse isn't a thing anymore. And by the way, After the Flash movie, we are dealing with a total fresh reboot, and this Henry Cavill Superman is totally a different Superman. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wife. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. I do love myself. Well, someone has to, right? I'm 50 next week. Don't forget the birthday greetings. I really love them. Anyway, yes. So please hit the notification bell. As I've already said, please like, share and subscribe. And I will see you again in the next video. This is going to take a long time to upload. I hope you've watched it and it's successfully uploaded. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.